Hi you guys, it's Arielle. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. As you can tell by the title, in today's video, we'll be covering the 5th arrondissement of Paris. Now, just like I did for the other arrondissements, I first want to start by giving you guys an outline of the route that we'll be taking, as well as a little description of all the sites and the monuments and the museums that we'll see, and then we'll get into the vlog style portion of this video where I'll actually take you on a tour of the 5th. Before we get into everything, I want to give you guys a quick heads up that this arrondissement is dense. It might not be the biggest arrondissement in size, but there are definitely a lot of things to see, so buckle up. So the 5th arrondissement is actually the first arrondissement that we'll be visiting that is entirely on rive gauche of the Seine, which means it's in the southern part of the city. It's composed of 4 neighborhoods or quartiers. We've got the Sorbonne, we've got Saint-Victor, Val-de-Grâce, and Jardin des Plantes. While I would say the 5th arrondissement and the rive gauche in general is a very student-dominated area due to the fact that it's in such close proximity to the universities, the nightlife here is really fun and there are a lot of important and very interesting monuments and museums to see. The 5th is one of the oldest areas in Paris and was first built by the Romans. The Roman town Lutèce dates all the way back to the 1st century and was built after the Gaulish site on the Ile de la Cité was conquered. The 5th is also home to the oldest university in Paris, La Sorbonne, which was built between 1160 and 1250. Now, if you guys remember from my last video, we ended the tour of the 4th arrondissement at the Bassin de l'Arsenal, and today we'll be starting our tour just on the other side of the Seine at the Jardin des Plantes, which is a 400-year-old botanical garden. The Jardin des Plantes is of course open to the public to visit for free, but there is also a research purpose to this garden, which is gathering and studying collections of plants. Within this huge garden space, you also have the National Museum of Natural History, you've got archives, libraries, greenhouses, and a zoo. I would highly recommend visiting the Gallery of Evolution, which hosts over 7,000 lifelike specimens, as well as the Paleontology and Comparative Anatomy Gallery, which has just under 1,000 different skeletons on display. Both museums are definitely really cool. The second stop on our tour is the Arènes de Lutèce, which is a huge amphitheater that would have held up to 15,000 people. It was built between the 1st and 2nd century and was mostly used to show gladiator combat. Next, we'll head over to the legendary Rue Mouffetard, which is one of the oldest and most picturesque streets in Paris. There has been a road there ever since the Romans. It's a very lively street where you can find daily markets with fresh produce, cafes, bars, bistros, restaurants, all that kind of good stuff that actually make it one of Paris's most popular nightlife hotspots. This street was also a huge inspiration for Victor Hugo while he wrote Les Misérables. On the Rue Mouffetard, you also have the Église Saint-Médard, which is a Roman Catholic church built in the 15th century. We'll then head over to the very beautiful Grand Mosquée de Paris, which you can actually visit any day of the week from 9 to 6, with the exception of Fridays and Muslim holidays. Our 6th stop, which I definitely need my notes for because it's a mouthful, is the Abbaye Royale du Val-de-Grâce et Musée du Service de Santé des Armées. This was initially a church built in the 17th century by Queen Anne of Austria to thank God for the birth of Louis XIV, but since the Revolution, it's been transformed into the Museum of Health Services of the Army and shows a plethora of military medicine. Our next stop is the Panthéon, which is a striking monument in the 5th. It was built between 1758 and 1790 at the request of King Louis XV and was supposed to be a church dedicated to the Sainte Geneviève. But by the time construction was finished, the revolution had started, and in 1791 it was voted that the Church of Sainte Geneviève would be turned into a mausoleum for the remains of distinguished French citizens. The Panthéon currently houses the remains of scientist Marie Curie, philosopher Voltaire, and French writer Victor Hugo, as well as other French luminaries. In 2021, Josephine Baker was also reinterred at the Panthéon, making the entertainer, who was a World War II hero in France, the first woman of color to get the country's highest honor. Just as a side note, you also have the Panthéon Sorbonne University located right beside the Panthéon. Our 8th stop is the Cluny Museum, which is the National Museum of the Middle Ages and is dedicated to medieval art. In this museum, you'll find the very popular tapestry, The Lady and the Unicorn, which is a set of 6 different tapestries that show the 5 different senses, and the 6th tapestry, or the 6th sense, is left as a mystery. On the ground floor, you have the frigidarium, which is the cold room, as well as the calderia, which are the hot rooms. Our ninth stop is the Paroisse Saint-Séverin, which is a Gothic-style Catholic church built in the 12th century. The church was named after the Saint-Séverin of Paris, who was a devout hermit that lived on the site in the 6th century and died in around 540. The history of this church is really interesting. At the end of the 12th century, the theology school that was attached to Notre Dame de Paris had become so popular that the students and the teachers had to be relocated to the left bank. The University of Paris was founded in 1215, and the Paroisse de Saint-Séverin became its parish church. Our next stop will be the very narrow and cobblestoned Rue de la Huchette. It's located in the heart of the Latin Quarter and has a very lively nightlife. You'll find lots of bars, pubs, restaurants. On the street, you also have the Théâtre de la Huchette, where Eugène Ionesco's Cantatrice Chauve and La Leçon have been playing uninterrupted since 1957. I've actually been and can say that it's really well done. It's definitely a must-see for anyone who studied French literature in school. Our 11th stop is the Shakespeare & Company bookshop. Now, the Shakespeare & Co. that we know today was opened in 1951 by George Whitman. But that being said, I do think it's important to talk a little bit about the history of this store and the fact that the OG Shakespeare & Co. was actually opened in 1919 by a woman named Sylvia Beach and was located a little bit further down the Seine in the 6th arrondissement. Sylvia's Shakespeare & Co. was actually both a bookshop as well as a library and attracted a lot of very famous expat writers like Hemingway and Fitzgerald. Sadly, her bookshop was closed during the Second World War when she refused to sell a copy of Finnegan's Wake to a Nazi officer. Later on, when Whitman opened his store, it was initially called Le Mistral, but he actually changed it to Shakespeare & Co. on the 400th anniversary of William Shakespeare's birth and in honor of Sylvia Beach, whom he admired. Next, we'll check out the oldest tree in Paris, which is located in the Viviani Gardens. This tree is over 400 years old. This locust tree, or robinier in French, came from North America and was planted in 1601. Our second to last stop is the Latin Quarter, which straddles both the 5th and the 6th arrondissement. Its name stems from the Middle Ages when the students here were taught in Latin. I would say that the most popular area of the Latin Quarter is right at the border between the 5th and the 6th arrondissement. This is where a lot of people will go to have a night out. The Latin Quarter is very famous for its bars and cabarets and is actually home to one of the oldest cabarets in Paris called the Paradis Latin. Initially, Paradis Latin was called the Théâtre Latin, which Napoleon had built in 1802. After the théâtre burned down in a fire, it was actually rebuilt and redesigned by Gustave Eiffel himself in 1889 as Paradis Latin. Our final stop is the Institut of the Arab World, which is a museum that aims to cultivate constructive dialogue between the Arab world, France, and Europe. While it is a museum, the Institute also offers one of the best views of the city of Paris from its rooftop terrace. During the summer, from July to September, the rooftop also opens its summer club, where you can enjoy the beautiful view with a drink and some music. So there you have it. That's our route. That's everything we're going to see today. Without further ado, let's head over to the 5th.
Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Turn this room, turn it to an ocean. Let me float around.
So we're just about finished with our tour of the Jardin des Plantes. Right now I'm in the botanical garden for the School of Botany, I think is what I read on the sign. It's kind of a shame, honestly. I feel like this is not the best season to be filming in the Jardin des Plantes, just because everything is a little dead looking. You know how I was telling you guys how the two museums that I really love in this garden is the Paleontology Museum and the Galerie de l'Évolution? Well, I went into those museums and I had my first influencer slap in the face moment. I told them, I was like, you know, I've already been to both these museums, I don't want to visit, I would just like to take a clip of the entranceway just to show people what they could potentially visit in these museums, because the Paleontology Museum, for example, is just so interesting. It's so cool. It's unlike any museum I've ever seen before, and so I wanted to just quickly give you guys a snippet of what it would look like and to really encourage you to go visit, honestly, because it is such an amazing museum. And straight away they were like, no way, we don't care what you're doing, you need to buy a ticket if you want to film anything. And I was like, whoa, well, I'm just trying to advertise your museum here. Like, I would totally get it if I was trying to go in and like visit the museum, but I really just wanted to try and show you guys a glimpse of what the museums look like, but that got shut down really quick. I tried to get a little clip of the Paleontology Museum like right at the entrance, but yeah, sorry about that. I definitely tried, and even though they didn't let me film, I still recommend that you check out those museums. They are really fun. We're gonna head off now and make our way to the Arènes de Lutèce.
Just know how it feels when we're falling in love. Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Say what you wanna say to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning. Show me there's nothing fake to me now. I wanna wake up with you in the morning.
We just finished at the church, which was beautiful. We did the Rue Mouffetard, which was so busy. We also did the arena, which was a lot less ancient looking than I had thought, but a great place to eat your lunch. And now we're on our way to the Mosquée de Paris. So I'm standing outside of the Église Val-de-Grâce, which is very beautiful. The passageway is adorable, and the church looks stunning. The problem is I chose to come here on a Friday, which is one of the only days this church is closed. So unfortunately, this is all I'll be able to show you guys of the church, but from the outside, it looks great. This church is also kind of far out from all of the other attractions that we're visiting in the 5th. You would have seen that I actually got on a Vélib to come here because it was an 18-minute walk, and now we're gonna head over to the Panthéon, but that's also a 15-minute walk, so we're gonna hop right back on the Vélib, and I'll check back in with you guys when we're at the Panthéon. We're at the Panthéon, which you guys can see in the background. I am starving, so we're gonna have a little lunch break on the wooden benches that they have all around the Panthéon. It's actually a nice place to stop and have a snack or lunch, especially in the summer when it's not cloudy and looking like it's about to rain. But anyways, I picked up this jambon focaccia. And yeah, I'm just gonna enjoy it with this beautiful view. To Shakespeare & Co. we go! So that visit to Shakespeare & Co. was definitely short-lived. I have never seen a line there in my life. It's kind of a bummer because I really would have liked to show you guys the inside of the store. It is really beautiful, it's very interesting, it's very unique, but there is no way I'm waiting in a line for more than an hour just to go into a bookshop. I have absolutely never waited in line to go into Shakespeare & Co. And the thing is, it's not even tourist season right now. Like, it is February, it's an ugly day. Like, I am shocked that there's that many people waiting to go into the store, but anyways, we made it to the oldest street in Paris right behind me. I also took you guys down the Rue de la Huchette. We saw the Théâtre, and I think you could have seen from my clips, but it was already super busy and it's not even nighttime yet. It's about 4 p.m. So far today, I've been walking around and filming for about 5 hours, so I'm kind of excited to get this day over with. The 5th really is an arrondissement that overwhelms me just due to the sheer volume of people that are always running around no matter what time of day. We have the cabaret designed by Gustave Eiffel to visit, the Paradis Latin, and then we'll end our tour with the Institut du monde Arabe. What a day. I'm honestly super happy to be wrapping up this tour. Let's end with a thorn and a rose. Starting with my thorn, if I had to pick just one, it would be the Église Val-de-Grâce. Not that it was ugly or anything like that. I mean, it was definitely a bummer I couldn't visit it, but it was just really far out and far away from the rest of the things I wanted to visit in the 5th. So it was kind of a pain to go all the way out there just to find it closed, and the route to the church was not that aesthetic either. Generally speaking though, the Fifth is kind of low-key a thorn for me. When you live full-time in Paris, you are constantly in the hustle and bustle, in the noise, and in really busy places. So during your leisure time, you don't really gravitate to places like the Fifth that are just swarming with students and with tourists and people trying to sell you things. So just generally speaking, I really find this arrondissement very overwhelming. I really wouldn't typically spend a full 6 or 7 hour day here. I think as well, as you can see, the weather is kind of crummy, so that might be contributing to my overall down mood of this arrondissement. Also, just an FYI, I'm at the Quai Saint-Bernard, and I didn't put this on my map or my list of things to see in the Fifth, but it actually is one of my most favorite places in this arrondissement to go for a picnic or just a walk. It's really beautiful in the summer. There's these nice weeping willows over the Seine. Sorry, my camera battery died, so we're switching to the iPhone. My rose for this arrondissement is the Jardin des Plantes. It is a must-see if you're visiting Paris. Even though it's significantly more beautiful in the summer when everything is in bloom, I really didn't mind spending an hour or two there today just walking around, enjoying the nature, enjoying the calm. It really is a garden that's not too busy. There's lots of benches. It's a great place to go if you're just looking for a place to have lunch or a snack. And like I've said multiple times, I think the museums in the Jardin des Plantes are top tier. They're some of the most interesting museums I've ever done, and I would really highly recommend that you check them out if you're traveling to Paris. That is all for me today. I am really relieved to be done this arrondissement. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.